right, everyone, welcome to Five to Thrive. My name is Abby Horton, and it's so nice to be with y'all today. I am a registered nurse, a certified health and life coach, a wellness class educator for WellBama, and a WellBama ambassador. And I teach here at the Capstone College of Nursing at UA. So it's a privilege to be with y'all. I have put my contact information on this slide because oftentimes we think of things to ask after the presentation has ended. So if you ever want to reach out to me, please feel free to. If I can be of help, I want to be of help to you. So thank you so much for being here. Our webinar goals, we really wanted to just discuss the importance of health and wellness. We want to talk about those 5 wellness basics, and we want to learn some strategies that will actually help us implement these wellness basics. A lot of times wellness is pretty simple, but it doesn't mean that it's easy to do. So before we start, I want to really focus on what we can control. So a lot of times when we think about health and wellness, or we think about managing our mental health, we think about being perfect. We think about getting rid of all of our negative emotions or our negative thoughts or feelings, and maybe all of our, quote unquote, negative behaviors. And really that's not realistic. We are human. I tell my students all the time, I raise my hand and I say, I am 100% human, and I am going to make mistakes, and I am flawed. And that's just part of the human experience. And part of the human experience is also having stress. It's having a piece of pizza on Friday night. It's not exercising after you've had a stressful day. That is part of being human. But what we really want to focus on today is how do we put systems and routines and rhythms in place and good habits in place that help us meet our goals more often than not, okay? So really simple and practical approach to wellness. So in this first slide, it says the goal isn't to get rid of all your negative thoughts and feelings. That's impossible. The goal is to change your response to them. And that's really true. Our response and our mindset matter so much more than our actual circumstances. And I'm going to help walk us through why I think that's true and give you some tools to actually help you make progress on your goals. We don't want you to worry about things that you can't control. And y'all, I think if anything that 2020 and 2021 has taught us, there is a lot that's out of our control. We sometimes want to focus on those things because that's just how our brains are wired. Our brains are wired to protect us. And if we think through all of the things that feel negative or stressful, it's our brain's way of trying to protect us. But at some point, we also have to coach ourselves that, we can't think about those things. We can only do what we can do and really focus on the things that we can control. So this third image, the things I can control remote, it's really all about how you show up to your life, your attitude, your effort, and your actions. Those are the basic things you can control. You can control how you respond to people. You can control what you eat or don't eat, or who you follow or unfollow on social media, how you react, how you talk to yourself, how you think about yourself, how you talk or think about others. You can set personal boundaries. Those are all things that you can control. But the thing that you can't control most of the time is your outcomes. You can't control the outcomes of situations. I tell my students all the time, and I think it's a perfect example because we've all been a student at some point. You can study as much as you have planned. You can make all of the flashcards. You can do all of the things that you need to do to be successful. Read your textbook, show up to class. Those are the things that you can control, right? I showed up to class, I made note cards, I studied, I made office hours. I've done all of those things, but the outcome on the test is really unknown, right? You can't control that you make an A or you don't make an A on the test, but you control the effort that you put in. It's the same thing with health and wellness. Whether your health and wellness journey is about, losing weight or getting fit, you can't control the outcome of that. So you can control what you eat today. You can control how much you meditate. You can control how much you exercise. Those sorts of things. But if you are using the scale as a metric of success and you step on the scale tomorrow, you can't actually control what that number says, right? And so that's what I want you to think about. Try to have a goal in mind when it comes to health and wellness, but don't be so tied to that goal that you think you're unsuccessful if you don't meet it, okay? And then the last image is a Venn diagram. I don't know about you, but I love a good Venn diagram. And what the overlapping, circles tell us is that where the things that matter and the things that you can control overlap, that's where we should focus our attention, okay? Our attention and our time and our effort, because there are things that matter that we can't control. And there are things that we can control that in the grand scheme of things don't matter. So if it's important to you, if it matters, and if you can control some aspect of it, and it's a healthy control, then focus there, okay? I hope that will be a good guiding principle. If nothing else, this is my favorite slide because I think this really lays the foundation for all other habit change. So this is your permission slip. If you need permission from someone else, if you're an obliger, if you need someone else to tell you it's okay, then this is your permission slip to put yourself first, to put your health first, to say no. Think about your no's and your yeses. What's a best yes? What's a best no? To ask for help when you need it. I tell my students all the time, ask for help early and often. And y'all, we're still in need of that same advice, even if we're not students any longer. And to carve out time for things that matter, that make you feel good, that are healthy. A lot of times we think that we outgrow some of the things that we teach, our children, our students, ourselves. But I'm going to give you some examples of, if we really go back to that mindset of we all need that same love and care. We all have an inner child that we need to parent sometimes. That really will help us because a lot of times we can give great advice. I'm really good about giving advice, but I need to also make sure that I'm taking my own advice. So definitely give yourself some permission to make changes. So these are the 8 dimensions of wellness. There are so many dimensions of wellness that we could discuss. These are the main 8 that you're going to see often. But what I want to point out to you is that we're really only talking about physical and emotional health. We're talking a little bit about social health, a little bit about intellectual health, but we're really only talking about the emotional or mental health or physical health aspects of wellness. And there is so much more. But what I want to encourage you with this image is that even though you're not really focusing on all of the domains or dimensions of wellness, when you make changes in 1 or 2 areas of your life, there is going to be a spillover effect and it's going to start impacting all areas of your life. And that's what we want. We want you to really focus in on making 1 or 2 important changes to support your overall well-being. So the wellness basics for the 5 to thrive. These are my favorite 5 things to tell you to start with if you're experiencing some health issues or if you're just wanting to really make sure that you're intentional about your wellness. And so I have the GPS Start Here pin because a lot of times when people come to me either as a student or as a patient when I'm working as an RN, or if they're coming to me for health and life coaching, most people say something along the lines of they feel stuck, they feel overwhelmed, and they don't just know what to do next. They have some goals and they're not meeting them and they need some help. And so I always tell people that most goals really need to start after you've gotten these 5 basics kind of solidified in your routine. So sleeping well, staying hydrated, striving for a healthy plate at every meal, moving your body every day, and meditation are going to be those 5 to thrive or those wellness basics that I talk about. And so I'm going to go through each of these in more detail to give you some examples of how you can incorporate these wellness basics. But before I do that, I want to tell you the reason that these are the wellness basics are these are the main things that you need to be focusing on when you're trying to do anything well. If you're trying to parent, if you're trying to, make strides in your career, if you're trying to be a good friend, a good neighbor, whatever it is that you're trying to do, if you're not sleeping well, if you're not staying hydrated, if you're not eating and fueling your body with good nutrition, if you're not moving your body every day intentionally, it doesn't have to be formal exercise. And if you're not taking brain breaks frequently throughout the day, then you're really giving a lot of output you're kind of spending all of your energy, right? But you're not putting anything in to fuel yourself, right? Mentally or physically. And so you're not going to be able to show up as the best version of yourself in any of those roles if you're not taking care of these basics first. So sleep. It's really important that we get a certain number of hours of sleep. Mainly when you're an adult, you'll say, 7 to 9 hours a night. And that's usually all we say. The conversation ends there. But if you're not getting quality sleep, you can wake up in the morning and feel more tired than when you went to bed. And so if you're one of those folks that sleep 7 to 8 hours a night, and you're waking up the next day and you feel more tired than you did when you went to bed, then you need to start tracking what your daytime and your nighttime routines look like, when you're going to bed, when you're waking up, and how much you're staying hydrated, how well you're eating, how much blue light exposure you're getting at night. Because if you are seeing that you've done those things, that set you up for success for sleep and you're still tired, you may need to go and have a medical evaluation to make sure that you don't have some type of sleep disorder, like sleep apnea or something like that, adrenal issues, that sort of thing. Because you should go to bed and feel more well rested in the morning, even if you don't get, the full 7 to 9 hours, even if it's not the best sleep, you still should be more rested in the morning. Okay. So think about that if you're one of those folks. So you want to aim to be in bed by 10 p.m. Our circadian rhythms are such that restorative sleep happens the best between the hours of 10 p.m. and midnight. So this is what I tell people all the time who are night owls. I am a night owl. If you are going to bed at midnight, and then if you can, we really can't do this when we work, during the week, but if you're doing this on the weekend, you're sleeping later to get that full 7 to 8 hours of sleep, but you're not getting it in that 10 to midnight window. You're not getting the full benefits of restorative sleep. So if you're tired or if you have a sleep deficit, the best thing to do is to go to bed earlier and get up at your normal or your same time, because that's going to give you more rest. Going to bed later or going to bed at the same time and sleeping later the next day, why you feel so badly on the weekends, it's probably a combination of that. And it might be the pizza and all of the other fun things we do on the weekends too, but that may be a big reason. Okay. Start an evening routine. So this is what I say when I say we need to start treating ourselves like we have an inner child, because we do. And what we know to do for children in terms of having a dedicated sleep time, right? We're really regimented about that usually. We have dedicated pajamas. We, take a warm bath. We might give them, something warm to drink. We turn the lights down low after dinner time because we want those kids to go to bed. I want my kids to go to bed. We have all of these routines and rhythms, but we don't do those for ourselves, and we don't do that for older children. And so have a power down hour. After dinner, if it's 6 or 7 o'clock at night, turn lamps on and cut the main lights out. Go ahead and put your pajamas on when it gets time for bed. Start, really winding down and making the house quiet and kind of get in that routine. And it can be called a power down hour. We actually have an alarm set that's a reminder for power down hour. And when the kids hear the Alexa say that, then mom is not the mean mom who's, telling them they have to go to bed, but it's Alexa. So you can delegate that. But sometimes we need somebody to tell us too. So you may not have kids, you may not be in that season of life, but we all sometimes need that external accountability. So maybe have an alarm or something set that reminds you to power down. We have ours set for 9 p.m. So for 9 p.m., everything is already kind of done for the night and we're ready to go to bed. So we don't have any blue light exposure after 9 as a general rule. And if we do, because sometimes we do stay up late, we try to wear blue light blocking glasses so that we're not getting our circadian rhythm out of balance. Another good thing is when you wake up in the morning, if you're like me, because I don't do any of these things that I'm telling you perfectly. I'm definitely human. I don't do all of this perfectly every day. But if you get up in the morning and you go from a pretty dark house to, maybe a dark garage or carport, you put your sunglasses on, you drive into work, you walk into the building with sunglasses on, and you don't really spend a lot of time outdoors, and you're not getting that good morning sunshine, that will also impact your circadian rhythm, because our eyes are designed to see bright light in the morning to really affirm that we're supposed to be up and moving, and it really impacts our hormonal cascade throughout the day. So try to get some good sun exposure in the morning. It's really good for you to get 15 to 30 minutes of sun without any sunblock on, and you don't want to do that during the really powerful UV ray periods of 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. But in the morning, getting some good sun exposure without sunblock on in the morning can be very beneficial for you for your vitamin D synthesis. We think about vitamin D just being a vitamin, but vitamin D is also a hormone, and it's really the foundational hormone for many of the other hormones that are made in our body. So that's really, really important. And then at night, keep your room cool, dark, and quiet. So you might want to use a fan. You might want to turn the thermostat down a couple of degrees. Keep it dark, so you don't want to have a lot of night lights or lamps or things on, because that's going to impact our sleep. If you have people who need the lights on, maybe you have someone who's older who's at risk for a fall, or maybe you have young children in the house, then consider wearing a sleep mask if you have to have those kinds of lights on in the background. That also impacts your vision. So if you use a nightlight, that sometimes can impact your nearsightedness. So just FYI on that, a sleep mask may be helpful for you. All right, so that's all about sleep. There's so much more that we could talk about, but those are the 5 basics. So I try to give you 5 basics for each of the 5 things. And I want you to treat this like a menu. So really think about, okay, what are 1 or 2 of these things that I could try to do to impact my sleep this week? And then go from there, add on as these things become habits for you. Okay, so hydration. There's so much that could be said about hydration. We actually do an entire presentation on hydration, but I would guarantee you probably more often than not, you think you're drinking more water than you are. And so you want to really drink about half of your body weight in ounces a day. So just to make the math easy, if you're 200 pounds, you would want to drink about 100 ounces of water. So typically we say that we want to drink 8-ounce glasses or 64 ounces of water a day. And for most people, that's not enough. So you typically want to be somewhere between the 100 ounces to 128 ounces, because that's about a gallon of water a day. And you don't want to go too far over that, especially if that doesn't line up with the number of ounces per body weight, because you don't want to overhydrate. You can get water toxicity, and we don't want that to happen, because that's going to get rid of a lot of your vitamins and nutrients and minerals and things, electrolytes that you need on board. So you can overhydrate. So just make sure that you're tracking your water and track where you feel good. So for me, if I'm teaching, it's a heavy teaching day, I'm going to need closer to 100 ounces of water. If I'm in the office and I'm not talking, I'm just doing a lot of grading and computer work, I'm going to need closer to about 80 ounces of water. And I know that's where I feel good. Less than 80, I feel dehydrated, and more than 100, I feel a little like I'm floating, and I don't feel my best then either. So think about those kinds of things as you're tracking your water. You can use an app, you can use notes in your phone, you can even use a journal, whatever works for you. I also tell people to habit stack. So anytime you're trying to make a change in your life, you want to think about how you can implement that well. So most of us, one of the oldest routines or habits that we have is brushing our teeth every morning. I would imagine that most every one of us on this call, if we were late to work this morning, we probably still stopped and brushed our teeth. We might not have done much else, but we would have brushed our teeth before we left. So brushing our teeth every morning is usually a key or foundational habit that we have from childhood. And so I really recommend for people to put their new habits along with or stack it with their keystone habit. So brushing your teeth is a great example. When I wanted to start making sure that I took my supplements and my vitamins and things in the morning, I would put the bottle next to my toothbrush so that when I would actually brush my teeth, then I would go ahead and take my vitamins. And eventually I could do one without the other or I could remember to take my vitamins and not have to really explicitly think about brushing my teeth. And that is a way to habit stack. You can do that with almost anything that you want to create a habit. It takes anywhere from 21 days to 66 days to form a habit. So 21 days is what we've always been taught since the 90s, but we know today that most people, that's the minimum number of days that it takes to form a habit, just like 64 ounces is the minimum number of ounces of water that we need a day. And then make sure you carry your water bottle with you. Now that most of us are back on campus, it's a little harder sometimes to get out the door and remember all of the things that you need. So try to carry your water bottle with you and refill it often. And if you don't like water, carbonated water, making fruit and herb infused water are all ways to make water fun. And there are some good brands out there that I really like that have carbonated flavored water that don't have extra calories or extra chemicals, more importantly. And so there's some good options that you can use if water is not your favorite flavor. So moving on to habit number 3, nourish your body. So when we think about healthy eating, we usually think about eating green food. And for me, I think a lot of people, especially in our society, we eat a lot of white or beige food or brown food and some green food when we think about it, when we want to be healthy. But we really need to be eating the rainbow, the reds, the oranges, the yellows, the greens, the purples, all of the colors, and have a balanced meal with that. Because for each of the colors, it represents different vitamins and essential nutrients and things that you need in your diet and antioxidants. So for each of those colors that you're not consuming on a regular basis, you're missing out on those vitamins, which is why so many people have to supplement today. And it's better to eat your fruits and vegetables with those vitamins than to supplement and take those in a supplement form. So you also want to try to eat a protein, a complex carb, and a healthy fat at every meal and snack. So I am not a registered nutritionist or dietitian. We have a couple of excellent ones here on campus at UNC. Sheena Gregg and Suzanne Henson, if you'd like more information on, coming up with a personalized nutrition plan for you, I can't recommend them enough. They have some great resources and are just wonderful people. So reach out if you want some more targeted nutrition support. But, having a protein, a complex carb, and a healthy fat at every meal is really going to help you balance your blood sugar out. And most of us have blood sugar fluctuations throughout the day. It's not just people who have diabetes or prediabetes. Our bodies are made to change and fluctuate throughout the day as we need to make changes. So if you're overly stressed right now, it might be that you are, as we're closing out summer and gearing up for fall. You're using more glucose and you're having probably more stress hormones as your body's preparing to meet those demands. And so just know that those things are going to fluctuate. You need to keep a check on them. Track your meals and your snacks, and then try to make one healthy change at a time. A lot of times people will say, throw all of your, snacks and sugary treats and things out of the pantry. And y'all, I just find that for most people that doesn't work. If you're tempted by having those kinds of treats in the house and you can't, have a limit on those kinds of things, then maybe you should consider it. But for most things, I think moderation is really key. And, most things in moderation is what I say, because most things that you eat and drink are going to be okay in moderation. If you're making healthy choices. And the more that you think about not having a chocolate chip cookie or, a Chick-fil-A Coke, probably the more you want those things. So if you try to really focus on adding in the good stuff, that's my biggest tip with nutrition. If you add in more water and you add in more fruits and vegetables and you try to eat more veggies than anything else and you drink water first, then you're not going to have room for all of those Cokes and cookies and things that you love. And you can still have those as part of a healthy diet in most cases. So focus on just one small change and don't try to make it all or nothing. Okay, so moving your body. It's so important that you move your body every day beyond just the normal, routine and rhythm that you have. Walking is absolutely my favorite choice for most people. You do not have to have fancy workout shoes or fancy gym memberships or, really hardcore CrossFit or HIIT interval training routine to be healthy. And so please know that walking is going to be one of the absolute best things that you can do. If you are new to exercise or you're restarting exercise, walking is the way to start because it's going to be the easiest on your body, on your joints, and cause less strain, less injury. And it's accessible. You can walk in just a pair of plain comfortable tennis shoes or comfortable shoes that, fit your needs, and you can just do a loop around the office or your neighborhood, and it doesn't have to be complicated. And a lot of times we make things more complicated than they really have to be. And that can be a form of procrastination. So if you think about, oh, well, I can't do this because I don't have those fancy new running shoes like my neighbor or my coworker, make sure that you're not self-sabotaging, because you don't want to delay any progress that you could be doing by focusing on the things that maybe you can't do. Okay, so yoga, Pilates, walking, dancing, just a dance party in your kitchen tonight as you're cooking dinner, definitely is going to get your heart rate up and get you moving and loosen up those muscles and joints and things. So it definitely counts as exercise. And then always, incorporate stretching in, because that's super, super important as we move forward, as we age. Maintaining our activities of daily living are the key things that we look at in nursing, because that's going to help you stay independent. And so that's something that you want to be incorporating throughout your life. So meditation, this is the last one. I tell people meditation is for the brain like sleep is for the body. At night when we are resting, we are like computers in some ways, where we're constantly trying to file and reconcile our day. And so if you're learning a lot, which in academia, higher education, we're always learning, that's just a part of our job description. If you're constantly learning new things, your brain isn't getting a lot of rest, because at night it's trying to file all of that information away. Your body is also then trying to restore itself and repair itself and get you ready for the next day. So if you can meditate for 5 or 10 or 15 minutes a few times a day, maybe morning, afternoon, and in the evening, then you're going to really give your brain some of the rest it needs to file things away, and to give your brain a break at night when you go to sleep. So let your brain have rest, let it have quiet time. Again, we're doing everything that we know to do for our inner child. Try to start with 3 to 5 minutes of meditation in the morning before you leave for work. This is something that I do, especially on days where I have clinical and I'm going to the hospital. I will sit in my car and I'll turn everything down and off, and I get everything ready. And then I'll put my meditation app on for 3 minutes and I'll close my eyes, and I'll get kind of centered and focused for going into the hospital clinicals. And that's funny because my students will say, I just became Dr. Horton, but they would say, Miss Horton, what are you doing? Are you taking a power nap in your car? And I would laugh and I would say, no, I'm getting my headspace right for clinical to come see y'all, and I am doing my meditation. And so they would kind of giggle at me, but it really did help to recenter and refocus and get me in the right frame of mind for the day. So I really encourage that. Add more minutes as you have time, but just realize you can meditate anywhere. Use a guided meditation app if you need to. Listen to soothing music. That's a great way to meditate. Or maybe just, close your eyes and turn everything down, turn the radio off, and just sit for a few minutes. Those are great ways to meditate. Try to remember positive affirmations for when you're feeling stressed. Try to be present in the moment. We are so future or past oriented, I feel like today. Future oriented is a huge value in our American society, but being present in the moment is not as valued sometimes. And so I tell people to really be present where their feet are. And your feet aren't in the future, and your feet aren't in the past. Your feet are right here, right now, listening to this webinar, and that's really important. And I think for me, I have to remind myself of that one a lot, because there's so much to be distracted by. And that brings us to our last point, is really be mindful of distractions. Distractions are kind of characterized as being bad. But y'all, we have a lot of really good things to be distracted with now. And that can really take our focus away from what's most important. So being in touch with our values, what's important to us, what we cherish and value, that is what's going to help us when we do have those good distractions that we're trying to overcome. And if you can laugh or hug every day, that is going to be even better for your brain and for your hormone response. Our stress response, we really have a lot of cortisol and adrenaline released. And if we can hug and laugh, that makes all the difference. The average recommendation for hugs is 8 hugs a day. And I have a child that counts his hugs. So he'll come and he'll say, I need 3 hugs, mommy. I've only had 5 today. So you don't necessarily have to count them all, but it could be helpful if you think that you need, to have some more humor, some more laughter, some more levity in your life, and some more of that physical touch. That's important as we've gone through this past year. I know many of us have felt a little disconnected. So all of that to say, this last little piece is on mindset. And y'all, I am going to share a little bit of a personal story. With my personal health journey, I went from a diagnosis of morbid obesity 3 years ago to being in a healthy BMI range, which is just one metric for health and wellness. Certainly, it's not the only one. And what started my journey really was on mindset, because I had been on a diet since I was 11 years old. Weight has always been something that has been a struggle for me. And what I had to realize is that a new exercise routine, a new diet was not going to be the thing that got me to the health and wellness that I wanted. It was really a mindset issue. And when I had heard that before, I would be a little triggered by it, and I would think, I can't just will myself or positively think myself into a lower weight or into more health or something like that. I also have a heart condition, so that always was a little bit more of a complication for me with my health and weight loss journey. And my fitness, it wasn't just about weight loss for me. And I would just get really upset thinking that, when I would hear mindset matters, I was thinking that they were saying that was the only thing that mattered. But what I had to realize is that the mindset matters, because if you're not in the space where you can really have a healthy, balanced approach to health and weight loss, then no matter what you eat or no matter what exercise you do or what plan you try, it's probably not going to be as successful as it could be, because you're not in the space that you need to be to make balance changes, because it is hard to live sometimes in a healthy lifestyle when everything is set up for convenience. You have to be really intentional about those choices. And that intentionality is why mindset matters. So I hope that is a helpful story for you, because I'm still on the journey to health and wellness. I have not arrived. So I'm telling you this as someone who's still very much a work in progress. And I hope that will inspire you. So the GLAD technique for mindfulness, this is something that I love. Nurses, if you know a nurse, we love an acronym. And so GLAD stands for gratitude, learn, accomplishment, and delight. So every day when you're doing your mindfulness practice, maybe at night, this would be a good time for you to think of something you're thankful for. Maybe something you've learned today. Hopefully you've learned something to take away from today's lesson. Maybe that will be a nugget for you, something you've accomplished today, and then something that really delighted you or brought you joy. And so I want to encourage you to jot down your GLAD for the day tonight when you reflect back on this Wednesday. So I hope that's helpful in terms of helping you cultivate a mindset that matters. And then I also want to share a technique. At the University of Alabama, we're all about winning, and we're all about champions and legends and legacy, and on and off the sports and football fields. And we have such a great legacy of that here at the university. And so winning is important. Winning in life is important. And so what's important now is the acronym is, how do I win in this moment? So if you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed, I want you to ask yourself what's important now. So what is the next thing that I need to do that's going to help relieve some of the stress that I'm feeling? This is a great technique. It's one that I use and when I teach my kids and my students a lot, because it is an important way to refocus. There might be lots of things that you are concerned about or thinking about having to do, but what's important right now, that will help you prioritize your next action. And then I have a good friend who is a life coach. Her name is Summer, and she has a Summer success equation. And she talks about it being consistency plus time plus intensity times your belief in yourself equals your results. And she talks about how a lot of times, we'll put the time or intensity in, but we don't see the results that we want. And it's because we're not being consistent, and it's because we don't believe in ourselves. And so she talks a lot about fixing your focus and really training your brain to see the good and reminding ourselves that everything takes time. So consistency and self-belief are really important when you're on a wellness journey. So another tool I want to mention briefly is positive reframing. So you might be, in a situation that's similar to this. I just gave this as an example, but when you have a circumstance, your circumstance is often not the problem that you're experiencing. It's the thought about the circumstance. So you might be thinking, I'm trying to work or parent or go to graduate school or, whatever the fill in the blank is for you in the middle of a pandemic and trying to gear back up for fall semester, right? And so you might think, oh, my life is so hard, or this is so complicated, or, any number of thoughts, right? And those thoughts drive our feelings. So when we feel like our life is hard, we're going to feel overwhelmed. And overwhelmed and stuck is a part of that freeze response that we have with stress. We don't just have fight or flight, we also have a freeze response. And so we feel frozen. Well, we don't take action when we feel that way. And so the result is that we are stressed, right? Life does feel really stressful. So if we can retrain our thoughts, this is called a positive reframing coaching model. If we retrain our thoughts to think, you know what? I am strong and I am capable and I can change things if I want to. If you're in a place where you can say that I am strong, I am capable, and I can change things if I want. When you say that, you automatically feel better. You feel more empowered. So your thought changes. I am strong. I can change things. So then you feel more hopeful and optimistic. And then your action is that you start to take the next right action. You get to work, right? And then the result is that things do start to change. So I really want you to notice that the circumstance didn't change. It was the thought about your circumstances. So for every time you think of a circumstance that's causing you some anxiety or stress, I want you to think about this technique. You may even want to journal it out. Journaling is a great self-reflection tool to help you with this. And you're going to start, after a while of doing this work, you're going to start seeing that you automatically correct your thoughts. So instead of having to consciously work through this model, you'll start to do it even though you don't realize it. It'll be unconscious. So when I first heard this technique a few years ago, it felt silly and it felt not serious enough. It felt too simple and I didn't want to try it. And I was really looking for something because people are always like, well, just think more positively, right? That's the message, the good vibes only message we hear today. And what I learned is that you really have to train yourself to think positively. Not everyone just automatically thinks positively. Some do, but most don't. And so this is how you do that. And eventually, the more that you engage with this reframing, the more that it becomes natural. Now, I'm not telling you that tomorrow you're going to wake up and you're going to think, well, Abby said this is true, so I'm just going to have nothing but positive thoughts. No, that's not how that works, unfortunately. But when you wake up tomorrow and you think about, oh, gosh, I'm running late, or this isn't working out well, you will kind of have that voice that prompts you to think about it differently. And I would encourage you to take a moment and really work through this model, and it will start to make a huge impact on your life. So some practical tips as we kind of wind down: make sustainable changes. Another coach that I follow who does health and life coaching, her name is Katie, and she says, if you won't do it for 3 years, don't spend 3 minutes on it. So really make sustainable changes. Don't try to do quick fixes or fads, because that's not going to be sustainable or helpful. Like I've said, make one change at a time. Try not to moralize wellness. We say things are good or bad. Try not to do that. especially with food. Food is fuel. It's not as neutral as just food is fuel. Food can be cultural and it can be celebratory, but just try not to make it as being good food or bad food, right? Just enjoy the treats that you have and try not to see them as cheats, but see them as true treats. Small progress is still progress, y'all. It all adds up. Consistency is key. Being perfect 3 days a week is not as helpful as being, less than perfect every day. Because if you're less than perfect every day, but you're trying every day, that consistency, that progress is going to add up more over time than trying to be perfect some days and then not doing anything on other days because you can't do it perfectly. Notice your tendency to be perfect or to procrastinate, because a lot of times we procrastinate and we try to perfect from the same reasons, and it's just avoiding stress or trying to, cope with our anxiety about things. Try to challenge your limiting beliefs and negative self-talk. Build a community of support. Maybe journal or track or take photos, whatever it takes to document your progress. In nursing, we say if you didn't document it, it didn't happen. And so document those kinds of things, because a lot of times you'll look back and you won't realize how far you've come if you don't have something to kind of base that on. So looking at old photos or old journals or old trackers can be a great way to measure your progress. Try to make the next right choice. So a lot of times if we eat that chocolate chip cookie or we miss a workout, we'll say, oh, well, we'll start over tomorrow, or we'll start over next week or next month or next year. And really, the all or none mindset is going to be a way to self-sabotage. So just make the next right choice. If you ate a chocolate chip cookie today at lunch, that's okay. I hope you enjoyed it. And now just focus on what your next meal is going to be. What's the next right choice for you to make? Don't start over tomorrow. It's okay. The temptation of chocolate chip cookies are going to be there. I promise you. If you love them, you're always going to love them. And that's okay. We don't want to live a life without chocolate chip cookies or whatever your favorite snack is. And then stay encouraged. Progress is not linear, okay? And it says don't let a bad day distract you from all the progress you've made. But I want to add to that and say, was it a bad day or was it a stressful 5 minutes? Because I'm really guilty of saying I had a bad day when really it was just one thing or a few minutes of my day that didn't go well. So I hope that will help as well. And this is just to encourage you that finding balance looks different for everyone. These are stacked stones called cairns, and they're all beautiful rocks. They're all in a different configuration, but they're all in balance, but it all looks different. And that's true. What works for me may not work for you, and vice versa, but just use this information as a menu of options and try to do what works and what resonates with you. We would love for you to follow us on social media. These are all of our social media channels, and we would love for you to check those out, especially following us on Instagram and Facebook and the blog. There's lots of great articles and resources there. And then if you would like more information about our programming, we have a wonderful website, wellness.ua.edu, for more information. If you're interested in signing up for health and life coaching with me, you're welcome to email me for more information. It is free as part of your employment benefit, and we would love to have you reach out for that service if you would like it. So I'm going to end the recording now, and we'll move on to questions and answers. Thank you so much.